Hey guys, so I'm gonna do a makeup tutorial. I've actually never done one before, but I have a lot of friends who asked me just because I used to be, a makeup artist, and I really don't do a ton of, or really none at all, makeup clients anymore, just because, I specialize in the cosmetic tattooing now, but I've always loved makeup. Makeup's always been a big passion of mine, so I just decided, with all this time, why not, right? And I was gonna put a little makeup on anyway, so I could head to the grocery store maybe later. So basically I'm just gonna be doing a daily look basically. So this is kind of like my daily routine. And sometimes I do a little bit more drama depending on how much time or what I'm feeling that day. So today we're not going to do any falsies or anything like that. It's just going to be pretty basic and natural looking. So all right, so basically whenever you're doing any makeup, you want to start with a clean face. So you want to make sure your skin is nice and clean, but you also want to make sure that it's moisturized, because makeup is gonna basically enhance what your skin looks like, right? So if your skin is very dry, it's going to look even drier once you have makeup on. So it's really important to have moisturizer. So one of the creams that I've been loving is Kiehl's facial extra facial cream. Ultra facial cream. I was like, extra, that doesn't make sense. So this is a really lightweight moisturizer, and I really love this. And this is my own product, so I'm dipping my finger in it, but obviously for clients, or if you're a makeup artist, you don't want to be double dipping and contaminating your jar. But technically I could be cleaner and not contaminate mine, but to me it doesn't really matter. So if it's my own product. So I'm just making sure that that's nice and evenly dispersed. And make sure and get your neck a little bit. And when I apply my foundation, I'm just gonna put my hair up here. When I apply my foundation, I'm also gonna add a little bit more facial oil. So when you're moisturizing your skin, you don't want it to be, super overly moisturized. So no heavy moisturizers, but you just want to make sure that, you're dry. If you do have dry skin, that it's hydrated. But even if you have oily skin, a common misconception is that you want to dry your skin out. But if you have oily skin, like truly oily skin, that's one thing. But most people think they have oily skin, but really it's just dehydrated and your skin's overcompensating by producing more oil. So to correct that, you basically need to moisturize your skin. It sounds counterintuitive, but it definitely helps. So I used to think the same thing when I was younger. I thought I had oily skin, so I would use acne products to try to, dry out the oil, but it just made it worse. And basically, if you go through, a week or two of redoing your regimen and adding more moisture in, you'll absolutely see a difference. So anyway, sorry, I have a lot of squirrel moments where I kind of go off on a rant. But anyway, back to the makeup. So what I love to use, I start with an eye base, and I use Soft Ochre. The MAC Paint Pot, these are really great. A lot of people use them for concealers too. I'm essentially just using my fingertip, and you just dab it just a little bit there, and then you want to spread it with your finger. Now, obviously you want to make sure your hands are clean. But I like using my fingertip because the warmth of your finger will help spread the product. Otherwise, it can go on. You definitely don't want to use too much, so make sure it's not too thick of a layer, but it'll help to smooth it out on the skin. So, and I had just done my other eyelid earlier. Another thing that I do for before I apply that is I actually curl my lashes. Now, this is a trick I learned from a good friend of mine when I was younger, and she was Mexican, and she said when she was growing up, this is how the ladies in her family curled their lashes. So I actually use a spoon, and this is a very small teaspoon. You want to make sure, if you're gonna do this, you can definitely damage your lashes if you're not doing it right, so just be very, very careful. You want to run your finger around the edge of it. If it feels like rough, you don't want to use that on your lashes, because if there's like rough, jagged edges, it's going to absolutely damage your lashes. So this is very, very smooth. Basically, it's the same concept as curling a ribbon. So I'm just going to hold it underneath my index finger there, and I'm going to put my lashes between my thumb and the spoon. So, and then I'm just curling, and same thing for over here. Now, I also use eyelash curlers, and I don't do this on clients. I only do this on myself. And then afterwards, and you can see there, it really curls the lashes very well. Like I said, it's the same concept as using scissors to like curl a ribbon. So basically you're creating a curl with that. So again, only try this at home if you're absolutely sure that the spoon is very smooth on the edge and that you're not pulling on your lashes. You're basically putting the lash in between your thumb and your spoon, and you're just putting pressure up underneath the lash and then pulling the spoon along the top of the lashes. Okay, so you're not pulling your lash at all, but again, this is at your own risk, so only do it if you're willing to take it slow and it feels right. So okay, so now I'm gonna go in with a lash curler, and I really like to get the base of my lash with this. The spoon does a great job at curling the lash in general. I have Asian, I'm half Korean, so my hair type is half Asian basically, so my lashes especially are very straight and they go straight down. Lash lifts are a great option. I just haven't done it in a while, and obviously with the quarantine it's not going to happen anytime soon. But anyway, this is how I curl my lashes on a daily basis. Okay, so we have our eyelids prepped, lashes curled, and skin moisturized. So I like to start with my eyes first. A lot of people say do your skin first with foundation and then go to your eyes. I really prefer to do eyes first because if I have fallout here, I like to clean that up really well before I put foundation on my skin. Otherwise, it just smears and looks like you have this dark shadow under your eye anyway. So to start with, I think today I'm going to use this Smashbox palette. It's Shape Matters is the palette, and this is what the back looks like. And the inside, you have these shadows, which are the small pots on the left side here, and then the larger ones are highlight and bronzers, and then the smaller ones all the way on this side over here, those are brow powders, and then the top one with the plastic top, that's brow wax. So when you're doing eyeshadow, you want to be really cognizant of the type of brushes you're using. So I'm using this like flat brush. I think, I'm trying to remember where I got this from. This is what it says. I think it's a Sigma brush, but it doesn't say Sigma on it. Anyway, so you want to find a brush that's similar to this, okay? It's the fibers are pretty dense, so it's not like a fluffy brush. When you push it against your skin, it's like it feels like flat, like the bristles are holding its shape, and this is going to let you pack on pigment pretty well. So this is going to be the first shadow. So basically I'm going to choose something that's medium that I want to do on the whole lid. So I'm going to go with this one right here. Okay, so you see that product there? That's fine for this. I'm not going to tap any excess out, and I'm just going to go in and tap it on the lid here. Okay, so you can see there just on the lid. And then I'm going to take a fluffier brush here. This one is a Japanesque brand brush, and it's number 724. But I love this brush. It's fluffy. The bristles have some give. but not like not too soft. Because if you have like a synthetic bristle, it's going to be really soft and it's just going to make the pigment fly everywhere. So this is really great for blending out and giving a very soft effect. So I'm going to go in, and this is where I'm going to do my crease, which is right in through here and above. And I'm going to go in just with a slightly, it's like very similar to this, but a slightly different tone. And I'm just going to go in now. If you look at my eyes, I have hooded eyes, okay? That's where at my crease, the top skin kind of folds over. So I have to be very careful when I'm applying my shadow, because if I apply everything too low, it's going to just make my eye look smaller. So if you have hooded eyes, it's really important for you to look into the mirror with a very relaxed face, and then you can see where your crease is, okay? But because my crease is so low, because the skin up here is heavy, if you feel around your orbital bone, you'll feel where that ridge is. That technically should be where you want to bring that shadow up to. So if I close my eye, it's really hard to look in the phone and do this. So just little circles, and again, I'm going up to that brow bone right about there, okay? And that's different for everyone. So that's why tutorials are sometimes hard to follow, because not everyone's eyes are the same. In fact, most are, very different. There's so many different types, and that's something I learned with doing makeup when I was working for a freelancer for Smashbox. I would get to do a lot of different clients, and so I learned early on that, one size definitely does not fit all. We have to kind of play around with our own eyes and our own face to really get used to what works for us. So this is a really great tip if you have hooded eyes like myself. And something to remember, when you're looking in the mirror, we have a tendency to lift our brows so we can see, and that's going to give you a different effect than when your face is relaxed. You can see how mine move a lot there. Okay, so again, we use this color for the whole lid, and then this color for the crease there. And so now I'm just going to add, you can see here it's already creating a little bit of depth in the crease area there. And I blended it out really well, and you can keep blending. There's no such thing as blending too much, okay? But again, this is my daily look, so I don't want this to take forever. And this is taking a little longer because obviously I'm being talkative and talking you through each step. So now with the same brush, I'm going to go in with this darker brown shade here. And keep in mind, you don't have to use the same colors. You just want to try to keep in mind the tones that I'm using, okay? So it can be a different color, but you want about the same, I think it's hue. I'm so bad with my technical terms here, but you just want to try to meet the same density of color, because if you're doing this look, of course, with makeup or any art, to each their own. There's no right or wrong. This is just something that I do for myself. So anyway, so I have a little bit of that pigment here. I'm just going to go into the very corners, and then very softly. You don't want to like jab the brush into your skin, but very, very gently, you want to go in and start buffing that darker color into that crease, and you want to focus most of it on this outer corner here, okay? You see that's starting to come together. So, and you want very little pigment, okay? If you tap your brush in there, and you have too much, see, like that's a little too much. Just tap it on your finger, let the excess come out, okay? But try to get in the habit of when you're pushing your brush into your color that's very, very soft, especially when you're doing the crease with a dark color. So I'm just gonna go in and buff a little bit more there. And you can check as you're going along, try to remember to relax your face. Now see, you can see here, when my lid comes down, like when it's like that, it looks really great. When my lid comes down, most of the dark is focused underneath, and that's what I don't want, because that's gonna make my eyes look smaller. So I wanna go a little higher on this brow bone here. When your eye is closed, if you have hooded eyes, it's gonna feel like you're going up really high. But now, see, even when I relax my eye, that darker shade is above. That's what we want. We want our eyes to be drawn up, not closed off. So I'm just gonna go in and do the same on this side. Now you wanna pay attention. I know for me, my right eye is a lot easier to do than my left. But if we check as we go along, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just make sure it's close enough that it's not this like huge difference, okay? Don't worry about being so precise, especially when you're blending colors. Okay, so overall it looks pretty decent. Again, this is just my daily look, so I'm not trying to, you know, win an award with this look or anything. Okay, so for my shadow, I'm pretty happy with this. Depending on my mood and depending on the weather, this is where I'm going to decide what kind of liner to do. So my two go-tos are either I'm going to use a black shadow like this, or if it's like a hot day and I, actually either one kind of works for heat. I was gonna say, if it's a really hot day, I might use my long-lasting gel liner. This is Bobbi Brown, and it's their long wear gel liner in black ink. So I really love this liner. Most gel liners are all about the same consistency, so I really like all of them. But it also depends on what kind of look you want. So a gel liner is gonna give you like a really deep black look, and then if you use a liner brush like this with the black shadow, it's gonna give you a softer look. The softer look is a little more forgiving, so if you're not too confident with drawing, you know, like with gel liners or liquid liners, then the powder is a lot easier. So I think, let's just go with the powder. I think that would be a little bit easier. So this is a Smashbox brush. I've had this thing forever. It's been like 15 years, I think, since I've had this brush. So when you take care of, high quality makeup brushes are really expensive, but when you take care of them, they're really, really long lasting. So I'm going to use this flat liner brush, okay? And this one, this is a synthetic fiber, but they're really densely compacted. So you can see here when I push it against my finger, it's not like completely just like collapsing. Let me show you the difference. Okay, this is also, actually no, not that one. Ah, this one. This one is a crown brush angled liner. Now, I like this for certain things, but for this, for most eyeliners, if you push your brush and it like gives and it's really flexible like that, it's going to be really hard to be precise. Whereas with this one, it doesn't give as easily, okay? So that's an important thing to keep in mind. It's not that anyone is worse than the other, it's just basically what I find is easiest. So I'm going to use a stiffer eyeliner brush, and I'm just dipping. And it's okay to get, you know, a good bit on there, but you still don't want it to be like falling out everywhere. So get, you know, a decent amount where you can see the pigment there, but it's not like all the way up the brush or anything. You're just focusing on the end. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to use this mirror because it's hard to see in the phone, but basically I'm closing one eye and I'm just gently tapping along the lash line here, and then I'm going to do little strokes back and forth. And so you can see there, it's a very soft liner. And don't be afraid to use blacks, okay? Because as a powder, like I'm doing here, I'm just sweeping it over and over, and it's blending it out quite a bit, okay? So it's not going to be this like super stark black line if you blend it out. So again here, I'm just going back and forth. Okay, now something with liner. Everyone's eyes are different. With mine, because I have these hooded eyes, this skin, if my eyes are open like that when I'm applying, looks great. But when I relax my forehead and my eyes, This corner has a tendency to go straight down. So overall, it will close the eyes, make me look older than I am, and it will also create this like downturn angle that just isn't, you know, super flattering, right? So what I want to do in the corner, and this is, again, this is dependent on each person. Not everyone has this issue, but if you do have this issue, what I do is I go in the corner and I create a little wing, but I'm going at this like really sharp angle up, okay? So when your eyes are closed, it might look like really drastic, but when I open my eye and close it, you see how that goes down? But because I have this little wing, it creates this upward angle and it's a lot more flattering. So this is what I'm talking about. Do you see this fallout underneath? Especially when you're using black powder, you're definitely gonna get, or black eyeshadow, you're definitely gonna get that fallout. So I'm just gonna recreate that over here. Okay. So another thing is that my eyes are too, most people have asymmetry, okay? So this is very normal. This eye is a lot easier for me to do. This one, it tends to go down further. So with a Q-tip, very gently, you don't want to tug on your skin too hard. I'm just wiping up that excess there, okay? Sometimes, especially with black liner, I'm just gonna dip a Q-tip. This is my makeup remover that I love. It's Neutrogena oil-free makeup remover. Walmart has the Equate brand copycat of this, and I actually prefer that. So they just were out of stock when I bought this. But so I just dip my Q-tip in there, and I'm just gonna go underneath here and clean it up. I'm gonna look in the mirror here and just clean up that angle as well. I'll do that over here. It's really important to clean up your lines, because otherwise, even if it doesn't look like you have fallout, you probably do. And then when you go to apply foundation, it's gonna look like you have these dark shadows under your eyes, which obviously we don't want. Okay, so now I'm just gonna, now that we've done the top liner, I'm gonna actually use this dark brown shade, again, the same one that we used for that crease. And I'm pulling my lid down just a little bit, and I'm going right at the hair where the waterline and the lashes come out, and just very softly adding a little bit of liner there. Now I don't want anything too heavy on the bottom, just enough to kind of create that. Now as you're going along, when I look in the mirror, I feel like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this because it doesn't look like put together. I'm just gonna clean that up a little bit more. Just be patient, because towards the end, once we get to the end where we add mascara and once you put your foundation on, it really helps to bring everything all together. So if you're starting with your eyes like I do, don't judge the overall look until you're done, because usually those final touches really make a big difference, okay? All right, so that's it for eyes. And again, this is just a daily look, so we're not doing anything too intricate. If you wanted to add like a little bit of glam, you can do a little bit of like a shimmer shadow in this like middle lighter area, and that looks really pretty too. So I mean, this is normally what I would do. Like I wouldn't add any more on a daily basis, but if you did want a little extra shimmer, I'm using this like shimmer palette. I usually use this one as my highlight, but this brown shimmer is really pretty. But that's going to be darker actually, so I think I want to use probably this golden shimmer here. So I'm just going to take my fourth finger, rub that in. I'm just going to pat a little bit there so you can see it just adds a little bit of shimmer there. Okay, so if you want a little extra glam, you can do that. Okay, now I'm going to wash my hands because I used a lot of my fingertips for the eyeshadow. Alrighty, I'm having to kneel. I really need to rethink this setup, but first time, you know, doing this video, so I have a lot to learn. All right, so now what I'm going to do next, we've done our eyes, we've prepped our skin, and it's given, I always add a little moisturizer to the skin first because as I'm doing my eyes, it has time to soak into the skin. So now I'm going to do foundation. Now, my favorite daily foundation is NARS Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation. I love this foundation. I'm just going to give it a little shake here. I'm using the shade Salzburg. But I love this formula. It has really great coverage, but it doesn't feel cakey, and I love the way it sits on the skin. It doesn't oxidize really a ton, and I just love it. So I highly recommend this. So what I'm going to do is on the top of my clean hand here, I'm just going to do 2 pumps. Okay, so about that much. And then I learned this from a friend. I always thought, oh my gosh, your skin is so glowy. Like, what do you do? I just thought she had, this beautiful glowy skin. Well, she told me she uses Cover FX in Sunlight. Okay, and what this is, it's called Custom Enhancer Drops, but it's basically a shimmer, and you can see it's kind of a bronzy shimmer here. Now, don't be afraid. At first when I got this, I was like, is that going to make me look like ridiculously like strobed or something? But it comes with a dropper. I'm just going to do one little tiny drop very slowly because I want it to be controlled. I'm just adding that much, okay? And then I love the serum. It's Kiehl's Midnight Recovery Concentrate. So I actually use this at nighttime, but it's really good for enhancing and adding some moisture to your foundation. But one that I recently started using that I absolutely love is Laco. This is Vitamin C Illuminating Antioxidant Serum. So basically any serum that you love, you can use. I love this one though, and it's done by a local PA, Danielle Agostino, and she's such a wonderful person, but also so knowledgeable and insightful about skincare. And so this is her skincare line. So I love the fact that, when professionals develop their own skincare lines, like, they're not going to put their name behind something that they don't personally believe in. So I'm just taking a little bit of this, and you want this to be controlled too. So I'm just doing one little drop here. Okay, and just keep it on the top of your hand. The serums tend to spread quite a bit. And then I have my beauty blender, needs to be washed, but I'm going to use this to blend the foundation onto my skin. So I'm going to wet it, and whenever you're using beauty blenders, you want to squeeze it under the water stream, probably like 5 or 6 times, and then squeeze out the excess. Okay, and then your blender brush is going to grow, it's going to get a little fluffier, but this is really going to help to blend everything. Now with my fingertip, I'm going to blend this, and I'm just dabbing it, as you can see here, making sure I get that serum and that the illuminating drops blended in. So it's going to look like that. Now what I do is I apply this into dots on my face, and I try to concentrate it under my eyes because I know that's where the majority is going to be. So I'm just dotting this on my face, and when I have a little bit left over, I'm going to use that to just blend under here, so that way I'm not wasting product, okay? Now with my beauty blender, I'm going to start on the side that I started dotting, so that way it all goes on easily, because I don't want it to dry out too much. And with this, I'm just gently dabbing, and I'm trying to bring up the sponge right up to my lash line here. And keep in mind, you just want to dab, okay? You don't want to rub. I used to rub foundation in a lot, and if I'm in a hurry, honestly, I'll just rub on with my fingers. But if I have the extra time, like we do now, I'm just gonna dab this in. And it really does make a difference using a wet beauty blender to apply foundation. If you feel that your beauty blender starts to get a little dry, you can add a little bit more. But if you're really allowing the water to soak in, that first time you wet it, it should last the whole application. So one thing, since obviously a lot of you know that I do cosmetic tattooing, I have my brows microbladed. When I'm going and putting the foundation, I'm trying not to go right over top my brow because that foundation is going to make them look gray. And just make sure there's no lines of demarcation on your jawline. Okay. So I'm happy with how that looks. Alrighty, and I always, with my beauty blender, I put it on top of something so that air is going to get to it, and I leave it out because you don't want to put your wet beauty blender in like a dark space where it's covered and touching everything, because that's just going to breed even more bacteria. So just be cognizant of that. Okay, so next, I'm still a fan of MAC Studio Fix. I love this. Even though it's a powder foundation, I love how it locks everything in. Let me just stand up and get my brushes here. Okay. Ow, sorry. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I use shade C 3.5. And what I'm going to do, this is a Bare Essentials Max Coverage Concealer Brush. I love this thing for packing foundation under my eyes here. And this is just going to set the foundation, okay? So I'm just sweeping a little bit. You don't need a ton. I'm just going to go in and gently, very, very gently, tap this in underneath. Okay, and I use this brush just for my eyes. And then I'm going to go in with a really big fluffy brush. This is a Crown C518 brush. Very, very fluffy, soft. I'm just sweeping it through and very lightly just sweeping this over. Again, it doesn't have to be too precise. You don't want to rub really hard. You just want to lightly dab this on because we're trying not to rough up the smooth foundation we just put on. So now that we've done that, one more step. For under the eyes, in order to set everything, you've probably heard of baking. I love doing this. I didn't always do this, but I really do feel like it adds, you know, a really nice texture. So I use Laura Mercier, the translucent loose setting powder. Love this stuff. So be careful whenever you're handling loose powders, because if you open it up really roughly, it'll go everywhere. And usually there's a good amount of product already sitting outside, so don't shake it or anything. Now what I'm going to do with my beauty blender is just tap into that so I get a good amount, and I'm just going to focus right under my eye here. And don't be afraid if it looks like a lot and it looks really white, okay? We're just going to let that sit and soak in while we do some other stuff, and then at the end we'll take a soft brush and just sweep over that. So that'll help to kind of like set the foundation that we've done, and also just make that area under the eyes look super smooth. So next I'm going to do bronzer. I usually don't contour because on a daily basis, contouring is a very heavy look, and even for photos you have to be really careful with contouring because it can look so fake and overdone. So I usually don't like to contour. I do a little bit of contouring, I guess you could say, with my bronzer, but I use a matte bronzer. So I use Too Faced Chocolate Soleil. I love this stuff. It smells so good and the color is beautiful. So what I do is I use a very flat brush. So from the side you can see it's completely flat at the top. So this is a Crown flat bronzer, SS014 Crown brush. So this is my bronzer. I'm just going to sweep this in there so you get a decent amount of product. And I'm going to make the, you know, the pucker face so I can see where my lines are. And then I'm just going to sweep this in right underneath. Okay, so you can see that blends in really nicely, but it's not too heavy at all. And then I add a little bit at my hairline and a little bit on the sides of my nose here. So I love bronzer because it just helps you get like a live glow. It just makes you feel like you've been in the sun a little bit, and I just love the way a little bit goes a long way. So next I'm gonna do blush, and I love NARS Orgasm. This is like my favorite color ever, and I use a little kabuki brush for this. It's my little blush kabuki brush. So with this, you want to be really careful. You don't want too much blush at any point. You can always add a little bit, so a little goes a long way. So I'm just dabbing it, sweeping it like once or twice, okay? And then right on the apples of your cheek, just very softly. And you can smile, see where those apples are. And just a little soft glow. You can see there it's blended. And I like to do a little on the middle of my forehead and my nose, okay? Because what this is emulating is a natural glow. And so doing that just helps to balance it out. I don't like to have like, you know, these focused pink cheeks because I just feel like it looks unnatural. Now last, for the skin, we're gonna do a little bit of highlight. And I'm going back to, oh, and this was a Crown highlight palette. I forgot to show you guys that. So this middle shade I love for highlighting. Everyone's skin undertone is a little bit different. So with highlighters, you want to use something that's equivalent to your skin. In general, that's the general rule. So this one I'm going to use because it's light. It has a little bit of a golden undertone. This one's a little bit too yellow, too white. So we don't want that stark contrast. We want something, especially with highlighters, you don't want to overdo it. So I'm just taking this jumbo powder crown brush, it's SS022, and I'm just sweeping a little bit here. And right below the eyes, we just want to highlight that very softly again, okay? And then a little on the tip of my nose. So whenever you're applying highlighter, it's super important to be very soft. And in general, that's all makeup, because you can always go over it again, but once you have too much product on, it's really hard to remove. And for me, the whole goal is for makeup to look very natural. So we have that, that's all set. And now I like to do my brows next. My brows are microbladed, like I said, so I really don't have to do too much. If your brows look a little bit more gray after you do your makeup, you can just go in with a Q-tip and a little bit of makeup remover here and just sweep it right over your brow area, and then use the other dry side. So you can see there's not much, but it took a little bit of that makeup off, and putting orange over a dark brow is going to make it look gray. So with the dry side, I'm just going over and drying any of that excess remover, and you can see there it picked up a little more. Okay, so it's hard to tell in the video, but they do look a little bit more neutral now instead of gray. Now, the one thing I do, even if I have microbladed brows, is I love Anastasia's brow tinted brow gel, and I use Granite. So it looks like a warm brown in the bottle, but it's a nice cool shade, so it's nothing that's too red. A lot of brown brow products are too red in my opinion. So anyway, getting a little bit of that, and we're just sweeping right in through the brows. Again, be very light-handed, because if you push down too hard, it may not look like it's doing much, but what it does is it just makes your natural brow hair. Okay, and then for the bottom, I always like to do a tiny bit there. Perfect. Okay, and there you have it. This is my daily makeup look, so there we go. Oh, my hair's a little crazy. But it's nice, natural, not over the top, just enough. I don't usually do a lot of lips. I tattooed my lips a couple weeks ago, so you can see they're kind of like a soft pink. But if you do want a little bit of lips, I would do that last, just so that you're not getting powder sticking to it. I really love, again, it's Maybelline. Oh, it's the Super Stay Matte Ink. in shade 1, which is called Dreamer. Now with this, I like to really wipe off most of the excess. The brush holds quite a bit. And I'm just very softly smoothing this on. And I'm going to use the tip of it to like outline the border. Same thing for the top. Push together a little bit. And there you go. This will feel a little bit dry at first, but it really dries softly. So once it dries, it really doesn't budge and your lips don't feel like super dry, but you can always put a little bit of like lip balm over it and it just helps to stay moisturized. But hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you learned a lot. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out, okay? Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day. Bye-bye.